Our guest today is someone who has great insight into human resource management. What motivates people? What motivates corporates? What motivates corporates' ethics? Are corporates ethical? These and a lot more questions got him thinking, and he came out with his debut novel, A Flawed God. Well, please welcome Arjun Shekhar, and we are going to learn more about Arjun and his book. Arjun, welcome to our show.
Hi, thanks.
A Flawed God. First of all, why this name?
Let me take it in two different sections. One is why God.
Okay.
So, this book, and if you see it on the cover itself, is about the share market and how the share market has become a god for all of us now, and not only corporates, but also it has penetrated right deep into all kinds of reaches of the society, where all of us are looking at this phenomena of the share market because of the fact that a lot of the corporates themselves are looking at shareholder returns as their supreme purpose of existence. And when you do that, you also start to have a certain kind of a system which starts to spawn a certain kind of behaviors. And so when it starts to spawn those kind of behaviors, the corporate system, and then because of the fact that the rest of society is always looking out for looking at the corporate world, and the consumer revolution is upon us, and all of us have become quite clued into the corporate sector in many ways, in our needs and our aspirations. We also start to look at this shareholder as a kind of a god, and start genuflecting to the shareholders' needs, and that's why God. That's why I call the share market, I think, the new god for our world. And of course, the second aspect of its being flawed is the fact that these people who are shareholders are supposed to be the owners of the company. So you would appreciate when I say, a leader has to display leadership, a friend displays friendship, but here's a bunch of owners who don't have to display any ownership, because they actually never set foot in the company. The company is not really their baby, if you know what I mean. I mean, they don't eat in it, they don't sleep with it, they don't live in it, and therefore it's more like a matter of speculation and punting.
Why did you choose this topic to decide to write on, and that also a debut novel? It's a tough area to kind of negotiate your way, and it's a minefield.
Frankly, I have spent a lot of time in the corporate sector as a consultant, and I have spent a lot of time in the NGO sector as a volunteer, as a founder of an organization. So I kind of have what I would say, an inside view of the corporate sector by an outsider. So I've kind of felt that there has been the people inside. We keep talking about how the corporate sector is responsible for a lot of things that are happening around in the world today, especially the great inequalities that are there in India today is a lot to do with the way the corporate sector has been set up, the environmental issues that keep coming up that are there. Also, what we don't really know much about, and being especially if you're not from the corporate sector, is that the way work is organized inside, the people are really crying for reform there, because they don't have ownership of their work, and there's a lot of kind of boredom, and why they're paid very well. And it's like a gilded cage. Everybody wants to retire early, and they work really long hours and so on. So I chose to write about this mainly because of when I work as an HR consultant in organizations, I find that you can do and put in place processes, you can put in place structures, but
it's an interesting read. It's racy, but it also makes one question. And even if you have no knowledge about the corporate sector, even if you don't know much about the stock market, it makes you want to question. Was that one of the aims?
Yeah, I think absolutely you've hit the nail upon the head, because what actually I'm saying is that it's really not a novel about the corporate sector alone. It's not a novel about organizations alone. It's really a novel about ownership. So if you really see, ownership is something that really moves the world and is a very, very potent force in itself. And to me, it's really probably the most critical force that humans have employed right since we became Homo sapiens and began to control so many things around us. That it's one of the forces that have come into use. I mean, for example, if you see I've done this many times. I go up to a college audience of young teenagers or early 20s. You ask them, so imagine you moved out of the house and you find that you suddenly remember, there was a leak in the bathroom flush. Now you're outside, you're getting late. Would you go back and do something, or would you call somebody and do something about it and ask them to raise their hands? And I say, you've got to be really honest about this. So of course we'd all go back if there's a leak going on and bathroom. So people raise their hands, and then 80-90% would raise their hands. Then suddenly I say, by the way, I forgot to tell you, the bathroom I was talking about was actually a college bathroom. Now tell me how many of you would actually go back and do something about it? And 2 or 3, and then I ask them, are you sure? Would you really go back and do it? And even those 2-3 hands, come back quietly and fold up. So, that's what ownership is about. We don't have ownership for common spaces. We don't have ownership for places which are not my own. But at home, I'll be really careful. I'll be tidy. I'll make sure that everything is spick and span. I won't even throw a piece of paper which won't go into the dustbin. While in college or in other common spaces, I sit and I try to play basketball from far away. If it goes in, it goes in. It doesn't go, it doesn't go. So, that's why I feel ownership is really critical.